There's a kind of emptiness that doesn't arrive with drama. It doesn't explode into your life. It just quietly settles in. You wake up, go through the motions, and everything that once felt meaningful now feels strangely distant. The conversations, the goals, even the small routines that used to bring comfort, they've all lost their color. And you wonder, what's happening to me? Why does it feel like life has dimmed, even when nothing has gone terribly wrong? Here's the truth most people never hear. That emptiness you're feeling isn't proof that something's gone wrong. It's proof that something deeper is trying to be born. You haven't lost meaning. You've simply outgrown the version of it you were living. And what comes next might be the most important chapter of your life. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand what that emptiness is trying to tell you, and how to turn it into purpose again. You're not crazy for feeling disconnected. It happens quietly, in the space between all the things you've been supposed to do. For many people, it arrives sometime after midlife. The first half of life was about building, structure, family, reputation, survival. But eventually, all that construction leaves a strange silence behind. You've kept things together. You've done what was expected. You've survived storms you thought would destroy you. And yet something still feels unfinished. The poet David Whyte once said, "There comes a time when you find yourself standing in the middle of your own life and it no longer fits." This is that moment. Jung called it the turning inward, the natural shift from the ego's ambitions toward the soul's needs. In the first part of life, we chase purpose through identity. In the second, we're invited to find purpose through authenticity. It's not that your life went wrong, it's that your life wants to go deeper. That ache you feel isn't depression, though it can mimic it. It's your psyche signaling that what once gave you meaning has completed its purpose. The old scaffolding can no longer support who you're becoming. We treat emptiness as a crisis, but in depth psychology, it's a threshold. The ego and the outer personality we spent decades building begins to sense its limits. That sensation of hollowness is the soul's way of reclaiming space. It's not absence, it's preparation. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust, wrote that when a person can no longer change their situation, they are challenged to change themselves. That's what this emptiness is, the challenge of the soul calling you inward. The outer world loses its shine because the inner world is asking to be seen. We rush to fill the void with distraction, with work, relationships, new projects, anything to keep us from standing still. But every attempt to escape the void only deepens it. Carl Jung said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Emptiness is that darkness. Not evil, but potential. It's where the old self dissolves and the true self begins to form. The ego hates it. It wants clarity, order, and goals. But the soul thrives in mystery, silence, and paradox. When you feel the void inside you, you're not falling apart. You're standing in sacred ground between who you were and who you're meant to become. This is the psychic womb of transformation. From the moment we're born, we begin wearing masks, roles that help us survive in the world. Jung called this the persona, the face we show society, the professional, the caretaker, the strong one, the achiever. For decades, these masks serve us well, but somewhere around the middle of life, the mask begins to crack. Not because we failed, but because the self we hid underneath it finally wants to breathe. You might wake up and realize the things you worked hardest for no longer nourish you. You may notice that pleasing everyone has left you strangely invisible, or that the strength that carried you through hard years now keeps you from receiving softness. The persona wants applause, but the soul wants authenticity, and the soul will use emptiness as its megaphone. James Hollis, one of Jung's great interpreters, wrote, "The task of midlife is not to find answers, but to surrender to the mystery of being who you are." That's the invitation here. To stop performing life and start participating in it. To stop asking, "How do I look?" and start asking, "What feels true?" Because the moment you honor truth, even quietly, something miraculous happens. The numbness begins to thaw. Next, we'll dive into the Jungian psychology of the second calling on your life. But first, if you find value in this content, subscribe to be notified of our future psychology and purpose-based videos. In Jungian psychology, midlife is not a crisis. It's initiation. It's the soul's second calling. The first half of life is about mastery of the outer world. The second is about reconciliation with the inner world. And that's where purpose changes shape. Purpose stops being about what you do and becomes about who you are while doing it. Jung described this as individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole, of uniting the conscious and unconscious parts of the psyche so that you can live from the center of your being rather than from habit or expectation. This is not self-improvement, it's self-realization. The individuation journey often begins with disorientation. The ego feels abandoned because the old metrics, status, productivity, approval, stop providing meaning. But the deeper self, the self with a capital S, begins to emerge. It carries the wisdom of your entire life experience. Every joy, loss, and contradiction integrated into something whole. You begin to realize that purpose now means alignment. You no longer chase meaning, you embody it. You begin living in harmony with your values rather than your fears. You care less about being understood and more about being real. And strangely, the more authentic you become, the more life begins to feel like poetry again. So how do you find purpose again when everything familiar feels empty? Let's begin with honesty. You don't find purpose by searching for it. You find it by becoming ready to see it. Carl Rogers, the great humanistic psychologist, said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." That's the paradox of purpose too. Meaning doesn't appear when you fight the emptiness. It appears when you make peace with it. Here's how that process unfolds. 1. Stop trying to fix the silence. The mind will say, "I need to solve this." But the soul whispers, "Stay here." Stillness is not wasted time, it's sacred time. The psyche uses stillness to reorder itself. As Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The stillness is where that unconscious material begins to surface. Old emotions, forgotten dreams, unmet parts of you. Let them come. They are pieces of the wholeness you're becoming. 2. Face the shadow. The shadow is everything within you that you've disowned. Your anger, grief, envy, fear, even your sensitivity. For decades, you may have pushed these parts away to maintain control or approval, but now the path to meaning runs straight through them. The shadow isn't your enemy, it's your unlived life. Integrate it, and you recover lost energy, creativity, and authenticity. As Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. 3. Reconnect with what is symbolic, not practical. At midlife and beyond, the psyche speaks in symbols, dreams, intuition, coincidence. Meaning now lives less in logic and more in imagery. Notice what repeats. The recurring dream, the animal that appears in your life, the sudden memory that won't let go. These are messages from the deeper self, guiding you back to your path. 4th, shift from productivity to presence. The modern world worships speed and efficiency, but at this stage, the soul moves at the pace of nature. Slow, deliberate, rhythmic. Thomas More wrote that, "The soul thrives on quiet reflection, on time that isn't measured." Make space for unstructured time. Walk, create, reflect, pray. Not to achieve, but to remember. 5. Reimagine purpose as relationship. Purpose isn't a personal trophy. It's participation in something larger. It's connection to the unfolding of life itself. Viktor Frankl called it self-transcendence, finding meaning not by focusing inward, but by turning outward in service, love, or creativity. He said, "Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose." So share what you've learned, mentor someone, create something. Let your life be a bridge for others, because purpose isn't what you get, it's what you give from who you've become. Every culture once understood that midlife was sacred. It was the time when the warrior became the wise elder, when the builder became the teacher, when outer achievement gave way to inner contribution. But modern society has forgotten that wisdom has a season. We celebrate youth, progress, and productivity. Yet overlook the quiet revolution happening inside those who are maturing into depth. You are part of that revolution. If you're over 49, you're not past your prime. You're entering the stage Jung considered the true purpose of existence, individuation. It's where you become a conscious participant in your own evolution. You no longer live by inherited values or borrowed dreams. You begin living from your essence, from the truth that no longer needs permission. And that's why emptiness visits now. Not to punish you, but to free you, to loosen your attachment to the ego's agenda, so that your life can align with your soul's intention. Marion Woodman once said, "The feminine within all of us is what roots us in life. It's the soul's longing to be embodied, to feel, to connect." That's the work now, embodiment, to not just think about life, but to feel it again. To not just exist efficiently, but to exist meaningfully. This is not the beginning of decline, it's the beginning of integration. Eventually something shifts. It's quiet but unmistakable. You stop needing to be seen to feel seen. You stop needing to control outcomes to feel safe. You stop chasing meaning because you realize meaning was never lost. It was waiting beneath the noise. Now purpose feels like alignment between your inner truth and your outer life. You begin to move slower, but everything you do carries more weight. A simple word of kindness, a day spent in presence. These become sacred acts. You start to live from the center instead of the surface. And this center, this self that Jung spoke of, is vast, eternal, and wise. It's the divine pattern within you that has been quietly guiding your life all along. When you live from that center, you stop asking, "What is my purpose?" and start realizing, "I am purpose," expressed uniquely through this moment. If life feels empty right now, remember this. Emptiness is not a void, it's an opening. It's the silence before a new kind of music begins. It's the soul's way of saying, the story isn't over, it's deepening. You are not behind. You are right on time for this sacred unfolding, the chapter where purpose stops being a pursuit and becomes a presence. Because meaning doesn't live in the future, it lives in awareness. It lives in the courage to listen to your own life and trust what it's becoming. So don't rush, don't compare. Don't fear the stillness. The emptiness you feel now is the first breath of your next becoming. Because sometimes life has to empty your hands so it can place something true inside them. Subscribe to be notified of future psychology and purpose-based content. And like this video, if you would be so kind,